Have you lost your job? Have you lost a loved one? Are you exhausted caring for your parents, for your kids? Well, you can find immediate relief when you read Sheila Mac's new #1 bestseller, Bootstraps and Bra Straps. It contains the Boots formula to move from rock bottom back into action in any situation, especially right now. If life has knocked you down, pick yourself up with Bootstraps and Bra Straps. Get your copy at www.sheilamac.com today.
Are you ready for a reboot? Welcome to the Sheila Mac Show, reality at its finest. History reminds us those hit hardest often become the change makers. This year, we've all hit crazy economic, social, and emotional rock bottoms. We all get knocked down. Something hits globally, locally, personally. It affects our health, finances, our relationships. We have to recreate a business or career. Each show, Sheila and her special guest will be sharing their reboot stories, guiding you with real solutions to upgrade and up-level emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, and financially. Here on NBC's KCAA Radio, Mondays at 1 and Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Pacific Time. If you're ready to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and bra straps, enjoy a listen. Here's Sheila.
All right. Welcome to the Sheila Mac Show, reality at its finest. Here we have real people sharing real stories and actionable steps to help you reinvent, rebuild, and reboot your business and personal life on your terms. I'm your host, Sheila Mac, and today we have special guest Annie Bourke. Annie is a Brisbane-based international best-selling author and animal communicator medium. She has had conversations with hundreds of animals living and in spirit to convey messages between them and their carriers. Okay, so known as the cosmic communicator, she is passionate about being a voice and advocate for animals and supports people who have experienced the loss of an animal with great compassion. She enjoys discovering animal wisdom and enables people to better understand animal behavior and health issues so they can enhance the quality of their pet's life. Annie has communicated accurately with animals internationally and passed messages on to zookeepers from the animals so that they are aware of any issues affecting them. I love this. As animals hold so much wisdom, I am able to hear what they want to share and ensure that their messages are heard, she says. She loves supporting the healing well-being of animals and humans and combines her spiritual gifts to provide intuitive healing support. Often, animals take on symptoms for their carriers so that healing may be needed for both. Yes, that's so interesting. And intrigued by people's spiritual purpose and soul evolution journey, Annie is a certified clinical aromatherapist, crystal therapist, Reiki master, angel intuitive, medical intuitive, clairvoyant, and medium. Now, she has some books out as well. Her first book was the international bestseller, The Bridge to Animal Consciousness, and that was released August 8th, 2018. And through this, Annie aims to raise global consciousness about animals, why they're here and how they help us and how we can help them. And her second book and #1 Amazon bestseller is Evolving Hearts and Souls, The Guide to Spiritual Awakening. All right, welcome to the show, Annie. And one of the things that this show is based on my new best-selling book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation. And this year, globally, we have had just about every situation hit us that we never could even imagine. And so I like to start off with having the guests share maybe about a time in your business or personal life where you hit a tough situation and how you got back on track.
Okay. I'd like to share about how I got into animal communication. For as long as I can remember, I thought that my animals could understand what I was saying, but it was so frustrating for me not being able to understand what they wanted to tell me. And I had a beautiful little ginger and white cat who was a runt of a litter, but she was a very special little girl. And she passed away very quickly after a short illness. And it just really shook me that I hadn't had the opportunity to better understand all the wisdom that she'd been trying to share with me. So I did some searching online to try and find an animal communication course. And I found a course that was online, and the image that was on the front of the website was the same image as her. Like, it was just a sign that it was meant to be. And I had 2 Maine Coon cats with me at that stage, and so they became my training buddies. They were very patient with me while I was trying to learn what I was doing, but I had to do a lot of exercises, practicing sending them messages and then asking them to send information back to me. And it's just been a learning curve since then. So I've practiced with my own animals, with friends' animals. I love going to zoos and talking to the animals at the zoos, and passing messages on if they need that for their health. I've talked to animals in the wild when I was writing my book, just so that I could get their perspectives and tell their story. So it's really about being a voice for the animals, since they can't tell us all of these messages themselves.
Right. Wow. That's so interesting. And I feel like I've always been kind of connected to in a certain way. And I remember I had a neighbor that had hundreds of birds. She I guess she sold the birds and bred the birds and whatever. She loved these birds. And in the middle of the night she came over because one of them was barely breathing. And so I went over and I was like, well, and she didn't have a lot of money. She didn't know what to do. And so I did a little blessing on the bird, and the bird got better. Now, a few weeks, then some reason, and it wasn't really me. It was the bird wanted to get better. I really think, and it was probably a seed. Who knows? I feel like it was a seed. But anyway, so then the next few weeks, another bird. This bird, she calls me and I'm like, no, it wasn't really, I had nothing to do with this. And, she calls me over again and I'm like, great. So I go over again. This bird, I honestly felt like it was saying, I need to go. I'm kind of done. And she had extended after it passed away. She told me she kept doing things to keep it alive. And it was really like it didn't want to be here anymore. And I felt like, wow, it really was, it wanted to go. And it's like there's some kind of energy that these animals have. And you think about how our family pets teach us so much. I mean, I have 6 children that, I fostered 3 are mine, all these kids, and our family pets taught us so much about different things. They just really attached to the children in different ways. And when they were sad, they'd go to them. It really was a beautiful experience.
So they're very intuitive. We vibrate at a certain frequency, and when we have any change in our health, our frequency drops, and our animals can detect that. So they will be very attentive. They can be a lot more affectionate. They'll spend a lot more time snuggled up next to us and trying to help us with that healing process. From all the studies that I've done and all the animals I've spoken to, they all come into our lives for a purpose. So they're on soul journeys just like we are. So some of them will come in to work with specific children if they've got issues that they need to work with. So they know who they need to go and connect with. Some of them are here to be guardians and to protect us. Some of them are here to help us be creative. Some of them are here to help us on our life journey. Some people may not be aware, but sometimes animals have come with us from past lives and they want to come and work with us again, which is such a gift. There's a soul connection there, like soulmates. And I've had a few clients really think that their animals are their soulmates. The bonds are just so close to them. So it's no coincidence that they come into your life. And a lot of people think that they're rescuing the animal, but a lot of times the animal is actually rescuing us, and it's completely the reverse. But there's win-wins, like a lot of them come in wanting to experience love and being in a nurturing family, but they also teach us about unconditional love because they absolutely trust us. They have to rely on us for a safe home, a safe environment, getting lots of love, getting good nutrition, getting good care. So it's a real trust thing, and we are their world. So any change in our routine or behaviour can really impact them, whether it's getting a new animal into the family, whether you're having a baby, whether you bring a new partner into the house. Anything that changes the routine in the house does have an impact on them.
Yes, that is so interesting. I had one relative who had lots of animals. She had a Gibbon's ape.
All
And
right.
it was called Goldie. It was a blonde ape. And when I was 3 years old, I would go visit, and the ape did not like me or something. She was jealous. So she would pull my hair out. Sometimes we would have tea and we'd be playing nice, the ape and I, and other times she would just yank my hair out. And it was so interesting because I was the new one in the family.
Mm-hmm.
I was so intrigued. I was like, look, it's a toy that moves. What do you think when you're 3? And so I had to learn a lot about giving the animals space. And I didn't think it affected me. And years later, I brought my children to the LA Zoo in California. And that was the day a gorilla got loose. And I had just purchased a pass to visit the animal. And I said, okay, we'll go on a pass. And on the weekends, we'll go visit the animals at the zoo. And literally, I threw the pass in the trash. On my way. I was so scared of this gorilla because I thought, well, I remember the Gibbon's ape and that was enough. And I thought, oh, wait a minute, that was a trigger. It did stick with me a little bit more than I thought it ever affected me. So there is something about having our young children around wild animals. That was a wild animal. But I slept with a baby bobcat that in the crib that my father was nursing back to health. So I've had the animals around me so much that you kind of learn how to listen to them, to respect them.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference. You can feel and hear their personalities come through a lot of the time, and it's really a cool thing.
So a lot of the ones I've spoken to, they've all got different individual voices like humans do, but some of them are real comedians. I've had a horse sing to me to answer the questions that the mum wanted to know, and it just started singing, which is just hilarious. I wasn't expecting that. Another dog that I spoke to showed me it laughing, and it was lying on its back because it used to love embarrassing its parents, going to dog cafes and lying on its back and wanting to be tickled while they were trying to eat. And this dog was just laughing, and it was just such a beautiful thing. It was a dog that had previously been abused, and so it was now with its forever family and feeling so confident that it could lie on its back and be exposed and exhibit absolute trust and see the funny side of it as well. So, yeah, they are very funny.
Now, what suggestions do you have for people that have lost a loved pet and are really having trouble healing through that experience? Not sure, I guess. I mean, like, I have one lady in mind that it took years to recover, and she just got lost in this dog. It may have been one of these soulmate things or something far more than that relationship. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. I just wrote a post about this the other day on Facebook because a number of my friends have just recently lost animals, and it's a really difficult time of year when you're coming up to having a Christmas without having them around the Christmas table. And grief doesn't have a time limit, so everyone works through it at a different pace. And, it wouldn't hurt so much if we didn't love them so much, and we just have that huge capacity, and they leave a huge imprint on our hearts and in our souls. So the other thing to think about too is that as well as us mourning the animal when they go, if we've got other human family and also other animal family, they also go through a grieving process as well. So they may need to get support, and it's hard if you're the oldest one that you're trying to support all the animals and all of the other human relatives going through this grief process, so while you're going through it too. What I've understood from all of the animals that I've spoken to in spirit is that they don't have any regrets about what's happened. They love spending time with their human family. They're very grateful for all the care that they've received. they don't want to leave us any more than we want to leave them. And so once they're on the other side, they find it really hard as well, watching us grieve when they can't come and physically comfort us. So they want to be with us as soon as they can. Again, from my conversations with humans in spirit and animals in spirit, once we pass over, we go through a healing process. And once that healing process is over, then those souls can come back and visit us. And so a lot of people have told me that they know that their animals have come back and visited. They've either heard them or they've seen them or they've felt them or a combination of that. And often they don't want to talk about that because people will think that they're just weird or imagining it, or that's the way they're helping to cope with the grief. But it's honestly true. I've heard one of my cats meowing when she came back to visit, and my other cats knew that she was there, and they were just sitting upright, and I could tell that they knew that that presence was there. And so many people have told me that. I had one lady who I was talking to, her dog that had just passed away, and he said he was going to come back that night. And when I spoke to the mum a couple of days later, she laughed and said he jumped on the bed with such force he knocked 2 pillows off. So that's the amount of energy they can bring when they come back. So some people feel them on the bed, some people feel them tapping a paw on their face or on their body. So they will do everything they can to let you know that they're there. So they do come back. The other thing that a lot of your listeners may not be aware of is the fact that the animal souls can come back again. And this was something that I knew nothing about. I'd always been fascinated with reincarnation because the ancient Egyptians knew so much about it. But one of my cats passed away suddenly one day with a heart attack, and she hadn't been sick. There was nothing wrong with her, and she just suddenly had a heart attack, and she'd passed away before I could get her to the vet. And so I said to her afterwards, "What did you do that for?" And she said, "Oh, I needed a new body." So that's what everybody does. And so she told me what she was going to look like when she came back again, and she came back. And it was absolutely amazing. So when they come back, they're a higher evolved version of themselves. So they've learnt their lessons in their previous last lifetime, and then they come back to learn lessons in this lifetime. And again, I've had a number of people that know that their animals have come back. Sometimes they're a different animal. So I've had someone whose cat had passed away and it had come back in a new dog. But there's things, it may be the way they walk, the way they look at you. There'll be certain things that remind you and let you know that you recognise that soul. Sometimes they look exactly like them, and then that's really weird because you want to call them by their original name, but they're actually a new version of themselves. Yeah. So it doesn't happen in every lifetime, but it's such a gift when they can come back and be with us. And if they don't come back to be with us in this lifetime, they'll be waiting for us when we pass over, and then we may have future connections together with them. They're such powerful bonds. So that's how and they confirm that they're with other family members who have passed over, or other animals in the family who have passed over. So that gives a lot of comfort to people as well, to know that that soul is not on its own. But the fact that we can communicate with the souls is also reassuring, because it means that they're confirming that there is life after life, and that the soul endures, and that love for the human endures. So they will be around as much as they can in a spiritual sense. So I would let your friend know just to be alert. Usually it's in the middle of the night or early in the morning, and just to be aware, and just to let them know that they're not crazy and what they're experiencing is real.
Yes. I know that we had one cat that my father, before he passed away, had found this kitten and gave us the kitten, and we had to bottle feed the kitten. I believe the mother cat got run over, and nobody wanted the runt kitten. And so we got this kitten. And the kitten literally slept in my daughter's crib. Like, I had a bobcat, she had a cat, and when we went on walks, the cat would go in her little stroller and go in the walk with us. And her first word was Coco, calling the cat not mama, not daddy. And so he loved that cat. And when the cat passed away, we had a ceremony and the whole thing. And I thought, I cried more than the kids, and they laughed. But they cried too. But then they said, "Mom, you're crying." And it was that laughter of relieving the sorrow. It wasn't like they were happy, but it was like, oh, Mom, wow. And I said, yes, we have to honor all our emotions when we lose a loved one, and that's okay. And I realized at that time that it kind of is the gift. Our animals don't live as long as we do, most, the traditional
Mm.
dog. And so with that, it's like, as a parent, if you have these pets, it's how we model how we go through grieving in a light way. It's still a big loss. It's still a family member. And it shows, how do we do grieving? What is loss? And we open the door to talk about these things that usually it's not something we talk about. And
Mhm.
it's a really important life lesson for people. It prepares our children for the future and for the reality of this life. And I thought, wow, that was really profound.
Mhm.
And a few weeks later, I'm asleep and I felt the cat walking toward me, and I felt the paw right.
Oh, that's
He tapped me. And I thought, I know that was so real.
I'm
Yes.
going buzzy while you're telling me that, so it's
Yes.
absolute confirmation. That's just such a beautiful story.
Yes. And so that's something. And we have beautiful memories of this cat. And so it was a cool thing, and it was hard. And we still, years later, we still love that cat. And
Mhm.
obviously we've had other pets. We have 2 cats and a dog. And so there's that. And it's just important. And the energy that the animals bring to a home is really beautiful and peaceful and loving. And they take after us so much. Sometimes they'll show us what we're doing. So, yes, so
Yeah.
it's great.
Yeah. So I think it's really important that children are exposed to animals early on and get that experience of unconditional love and that interaction. And it's interesting because children can actually communicate with animals. If you
Mhm.
watch really little kids, they'll squat down and they'll talk to the dog or the cat, and then they'll tell you what they've said, and they
Right.
can do it. And it's just a channel that we close off as we grow up, but we can reopen it again and learn how to communicate. It's telepathic, so you're not actually saying anything verbally out loud to the animal, but it's just tuning into their wavelength, and you're connecting with their soul on a heart-to-heart level. And they carry so much wisdom. They know exactly what's going in the house. They know what's going on with you. They know what you're worried about. They're just amazing what they pick up. And then some of the wild animals are carrying very special wisdom for us as well. So I've interviewed some beautiful lions. I've spoken with whales and with dolphins. That there's so much that we can learn. Even looking at videos of animals, just the love bonds between them with a mother and a baby, even a father lion and a baby when they're getting acquainted, you can just see the bonds there. And there's a lot we can learn if we just look at them and just listen and watch and not just assume, but it's taking that time. The other thing is that our animals understand everything that we say, so even they may not follow our instructions, they're certainly listening. So it means that people need to be really careful with the tone of voice that they use, and also with the words, because our words do carry a vibration. If we call our animal a derogatory name over and over again, that does have an impact on them emotionally and mentally. And I have spoken to a number of animals that don't like their names, and interestingly, they've already determined what name they would like to be called, thank you very much. And so when I pass that message on to their humans and the humans start calling them that name, they respond straight away. They're so smart, they just know, and that can totally change their interactions if they've been called something really awful to something that's a lot more respectful. And the
Mm.
same with zoos. I was doing a course at a zoo and I had to talk to the crocodiles, and the crocodiles said to me, "We think we're beautiful." So they've obviously heard lots of people saying how ugly they are, but
Yeah.
they've got feelings. They said, we've got feelings too. So it's getting that message out that animals have souls. They've just chosen to come in this lifetime in an animal form, but they have feelings and they hear what we're saying. But by understanding what's going on with them, it really helps better understand any of their behavioural issues or health issues. And as you read out earlier, sometimes they do take on health issues for us, just so that we're not having to bear the full brunt of a condition. And so sometimes the human needs the healing so that the animal can then let the symptoms go. But again, that's another thing they do just to be of service for their humans. They just want to help. One of my cats took on some stuff for me, and once I worked out what was going on, I said, look, it would make me a lot happier and less stressed if you were just happy and healthy and not doing that. And she said, are you sure? So she was that committed that she was happy to keep on doing it, even though it was causing her discomfort, because she wanted to help me. So they're just amazing beings.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I know that for me, my daughter moved over this last year to be in my home with me, and she's doing college online with the pandemic and this and that.
Mm-hmm.
And her one condition, she says, one thing I want is I want to have cats and a dog. And I said, okay, sure, no problem. But that was she felt it was a need, like she needed to have that. And we did not know. She moved over. My youngest son passed away. He was 22. He had a heart condition. So he passed away, and she moved over for that. We didn't know we were going to have the pandemic where you don't have the people to hug and see and all that. But she had this knowing that we have to go get these pets right away. And it was just like, it was really important. And of course the dog sleeps in my bed. and so they're definitely not just her pets, but she knew that was something that we needed during this time.
And she may be very empathetic or gifted, because a lot of empaths do have very strong bonds with animals as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that a lot of people, it's helped them cope through the pandemic, that they have been able to spend time with their animals and, just receive that love. And it is someone that they can hug all the time.
Yes. I mean, like, our dog is such a hugger and just loves everybody and loves, very social. We have dogs on every side of, the neighbors have dogs. And so she'll go play with the other dogs, and she'll go visit. We have like they go visit at the other place where they go play together. The dog training, it's like a training, and then they play. And
Mm-hmm.
she is just as social as we are. So, who would have thought? I mean, she's just like us. And she doesn't
Yep.
always follow the rules, just like
Yep.
us,
Mm-hmm.
the whole 9 yards. So it's great. It is a good thing and really healing. She's not a official therapy dog, but she's definitely our hug therapy dog.
Yep.
It can make a difference. And I think for people that are isolated and alone without somebody else living in the house, to have a pet, it makes you get up off the sofa to go
Yes.
take care of the dog or cat. It gets you moving. It gets you hugging another sentient being. It gets you active, and even you're talking to your pet, and it keeps you active and healthy and aware and outside of just the television. So I think
Mm-hmm.
it's really, there's so many people that maybe they've turned their pets into the shelters. And so there's lots of pets that people can go pick out right now, even that could really make a difference for them and for the pet.
Oh, absolutely. And there's a lot of, sadly, every year around Christmas, a lot of people buy people animals as presents, and they haven't really thought about whether the person wants that and whether they've got the space and the time and the money to be able to invest in the animal, because having a pet is a lifetime commitment for that animal. So, yes, going and rescuing an animal from a shelter is a fabulous idea, because they're all just in there waiting for their forever home. And I've actually done a press release about that, what our animals want for Christmas. And they just want to be in a home that's their forever home and getting the love of a family. So, yes, getting an animal from a shelter where you're genuinely able to look after that animal is a fabulous idea. I think the world record for a cat is 38 years. It was a cat called Cream Puff, lifespan. And dogs, apparently smaller dogs live for longer than bigger dogs on average. So smaller dogs like chihuahuas can live for up to 20 years. So when you're going and getting a pet, you've got to think it is a long time that you're going to be providing love to that animal, but then it's a long time that you're going to be receiving that unconditional love from the animal as well. They really do enrich our lives in so many ways. the other thing to tell your friend who's grieving, if she's ready, is to go back and look at photos and videos of the animal, because at the time you just don't want to. It's just too heartbreaking. But when you've had a big enough gap and you can go back, I ended up finding videos of my cat that I had no idea I couldn't even remember that I'd taken them, and it was just lovely to go back and see them, and especially with videos when you're seeing them alive, that's beautiful. And even things like for Christmas time, just having a photo of them around the table or around the tree so that they're still part of the Christmas memories as well, that can make a difference.
Yes, that's great. And I'd love for you to share how people can connect with you, get your books, or maybe get a reading, how that works.
Yep, certainly. Thank you. So my first book, and I've got a photo of this sitting up behind me at the moment. So that's my Maine Coon cat Tierney, who's with me at the moment. And so this was the first book that I wrote, and so this was part of my purpose in life, to help on a global level to raise awareness about why animals are here, that they've got souls and that they're really important. They're not just a pet. There's so much more than that. So I talk about how to welcome a new animal into the family, what happens when they pass away, why animal communication is valuable. It's not a book on how to be an animal communicator. And then I spoke about animals in zoos where they're being looked after ethically, and some issues for our animals in the wild, and then how people can make a difference for animals. So that's available from Amazon online, either as the paperback or an ebook, or if people are interested, they can contact me and I can do a personal dedication in the book and post them out to them, so they'd have to pay postage with that as well. And then my second book, Evolving Hearts and Souls, The Guide to Spiritual Awakening. I wrote this because when I woke up to my spiritual being, I started getting clairvoyant visions of people, and I'd be talking to someone like you and I could just see into their past life, in this lifetime, what had happened in their past, but what was happening in their future. But I had no idea why I was able to see this and what I was supposed to do with it. And I spoke to a few people at the time because New Age things weren't really in, and I was just told, oh no, don't dabble with that. So I did nothing for a while, but then I ended up going to some spiritual development classes and everything just switched on back again. And because there wasn't really a book about what to do when you suddenly wake up, I thought I'd write one and just write about my experiences over the last 10 years. Some of what I've experienced is really weird. So when people read it, they may not think that everything is as I've said, but as you experience more and reread it, then things will start to make more sense. So again, that's also available on Amazon as an ebook or paperback. Booking readings, I'd send people to my website, which is www.cosmicheartintuitive.com.au. I've got all the links on there for the books as well, but there's information about all the services I provide. So I do a mini animal conversation, which is asking your animal up to 5 questions, and I ask them if there's anything else that you need to know. I do a standard animal conversation session, which is up to 10 questions, and then I do the mediumship sessions, which are talking to your animals in spirit, and that's asking up to 5 questions. So all the information about them and how to book them is available on my site. I do readings from photographs, so I can do readings for animals all around the world, and you can also buy them as a gift for someone. As long as you email me the photo of the animal and the questions that the human wants asked, then I just ask the animals the questions and email the information back again. I've also got a business Facebook page, which is at Cosmic Heart Intuitive, and my personal page is Annie Bourke, and there's a photo of me and my cats behind me, and I'm also on LinkedIn as Annie Bourke as well, so people can contact me through all those various ways.
All right, well, wonderful. Thank you for being a guest on the show, and I will be contacting you for a reading. That'll be great. My daughter and I will probably talk about which pet we might want to get a reading on.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm also happy if people have got a couple of pets that they want to get a reading on, like one who's in spirit and one who's living. I'm happy to have like 2 questions for one and 3 questions for the other, and do a combined reading for 2 pets in the one reading, if that makes it easier. So happy to help. I just love chatting with them and just listening to what they have to say. They really make me laugh. I was speaking to a cat the other day, and the mum wanted to know why I like playing with water so much, and so he described like the sensation of splashing the water around and all that kind of stuff, and I said, oh, is there anything else you want to say? And he said, does she want an existential expose on the physics of displacing a volume of water out of the bowl? And I thought, oh my God, it just sounds like a professor. Like you just don't know what they're going to come out with. They are just so hilarious. Yeah.
That's great. I love it. All right. Well, thank you again for being a guest on the show, Annie. And we will be back after these messages. Stay tuned. All right.
Thank you.
I visited the horses, and I just remember how beautiful that was. I didn't know the horses. Obviously, I had just arrived for a visit, and I could really feel the energy and the personality of the horse. And I would tell my friend, you know, this horse is happy, and this horse is like this, and this horse is like that. And she was like, wow, you are spot on. And so there is an intuitive connection that you can have. It's like this feeling that you get. Their personality comes out just like for people. Dear Sheila, and on these Dear Sheilas, these are some fun questions for families and friends during this very interesting season. So take a listen. Dear Sheila, I'm a 41-year-old divorced mother of a happy pit bull named Freckles. I feel like I have hit a bit of a financial rock bottom. For the last few years, I have been spending a little more money than I earn regularly. And recently, I found out I have a judgment from a debtor. The people I owe money to are constantly harassing me. I already work 2 jobs, and I am now struggling to keep up with Freckles' vet bill. Before my divorce, I always had a stellar credit score and tracked every penny. Unfortunately, it has been challenging to switch to one budget, pay all the related attorney fees, and settle old debts. Now I'm considering filing for bankruptcy to have a fresh start. My relatives are angry with me because they discovered my situation. Sadly, most of it was my ex-husband's purchase on joint accounts, and now I am saddled with both our bills. I keep getting notices in the mail, and I have given up. So I just throw them into a big box because I don't have the money to pay them. What do you think I should do? Bankrupt for Freckles. Dear Bankrupt for Freckles, the most important thing you can do right now is to face that debt monster. That means you got to get the box out, and you got to go through all your bills and put them in order. Because that energetically will empower you. Either you're going to be in control of the bills or they're going to control you. That's the first thing. The next thing to do is you're going to have to start by calling 3 to 5 credit repair agencies. They usually will give you a free consult. And it's really important because you have a judgment, it's kind of scary. But that doesn't always mean you have to file for bankruptcy. When you get these free consults, they're going to go over with you how and where you stand with your credit. They'll help you to pull a free credit report, and then they'll go over what you can and cannot do, what your options are, and they'll give you a price for working with them. And then you'll see which one is the most affordable, which one, some of them have payment plans. The average range is usually $300 to $500. Some of them go as high as $700 to work with, and they'll usually get you to use a $1 to $20 a month credit reporting agency that doesn't ding your credit, to check on your credit as it's repaired. Now what happens is, even if you can't start working with them like tomorrow, you'll have an idea and you'll get a feel for where you actually stand. They'll be able to tell you of some good attorneys that you can work with on the judgment, because that's going to be something that can be cleared up usually without filing bankruptcy. But they'll also be able to tell you if that is your only option. In most cases, it's not. And no matter what rock bottom, you had a divorce, and it doesn't matter what the rock bottom is. Many times when people go through a rock bottom situation, it hits them in the pocketbook too, and they end up with this situation where they have to start over and reboot their finances as well. So in my book, I have a whole chapter on how to reboot your finances. So I hope this helps. And the other thing that's really important is, I know you love freckles, and there are some agencies that help out. So the first thing I would do is I would talk to the vet that you're working with now, that's been with freckles for a long time, and see if you can arrange a payment plan for freckles care through the vet that you already know. If that doesn't work, I would contact the local Humane Society, and they have a list of different vets that are based on a sliding scale, so that Freckles can get the care that he or she needs, and that will be the best thing to do.
Dear Sheila, my friend Sally has been struggling with the recent loss of her best friend Cindy, who was like a sister to her. These two friends were inseparable. Cindy even lived with Sally and her husband. It was so sudden, and Cindy's family has been very cold and non-inclusive. Sally was with Cindy when she took her last breath, and Cindy's family left the hospital before the life support was removed. Cindy's family took her remains and did not allow for Sally and her husband to attend the funeral. My friend has been robbed of her final goodbyes, she feels. She is so hurt by how the family has treated her and is stricken with grief. I do not know how to help her. How can I help my friend get closure? Signed, A Helping Hand and Heart.
Dear Helping Hand and Heart, I'm so sorry for your loss. It does sound like you did lose your best friend, and sometimes our best friends are closer than our closest relatives. And it seems like your friend's relatives, her parents, chose to grieve in a different way and wanted to have a very private ceremony. And that was their right. Yet in the same way, you have to think about perspective on this. Your friend is in a different place now, whatever your belief system is. If you look at the studies around the world, there's these beliefs that they have these things that happen, these signs that show up, that there's some kind of something beyond our plane, this field that we're on right now, that there's a knowing beyond this, that life continues in its own way when somebody transitions from this life. And in knowing that, think about your friend. She knows her parents, and she knows your love. She knows that her parents loved her in their own way and had their choice and reasoning for having their private ceremony without you. And she knows your heart and your love for her as well. And so there is no harm in that, because she already has a knowing beyond that. For your own closure, it may be a beautiful thing to decide, you and your friends closest to her that weren't able to attend that very private ceremony, to create your own ceremony. However that may be, that would most honor your friend and give you the closure that you need. And in that knowing that your friend already knows, it will help you that way. And the fact that you were there is so much love and so strong to be able to do that. And so I hope this helps. As always, I wish you life, love, laughter, and light.
Host Sheila Mack, and today we have had some really interesting information about the holidays and connecting with our pets and loved ones. And one of the things I like to talk about during the holidays that a lot of times people don't want to talk about is being addiction free and really connecting with our loved ones. Sometimes we have to have meals with loved ones that may be really struggling with an addiction. So here's an excerpt from my new best-selling book. Dear friends, I had to share this message because I love you all the most. All right, so if you are tuning in or getting this share, this is a very important message and share for those going through the holidays or any time of the year when you or a loved one is working really hard to break free from an addiction. And so this is an excerpt from my new best-selling book, Bootstraps and bra straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation. And it's a serious discussion with some guidance on how to break free from addictions. And to get the entire book, you may go to www.sheila.com, and it is also available on Amazon, Kindle, and Audible. We also have a course, a small group support groups, courses that I run with people that are seeking to break free from addictions. So check out the site online to learn more. And here we go. Take a listen. The cycle. Addiction. Maggie grew up loved by her relatives and friends. Shortly after coming into this world, she was adopted. Her birth mother had addiction problems and got pregnant very young. Close relatives arranged Maggie's adoption by two loving parents who couldn't have children of their own. Maggie grew up in a beautiful environment. She was well cared for, went to top schools, and had private tutoring when she needed it. She loved horseback riding, ice skating, and hours spent with her parents. They loved Maggie and gave her everything they possibly could. Then, toward the end of high school, Maggie's dad got sick and died. Maggie had received a full scholarship to college, but she deferred admission for a year so she could stay home and help her mom through the grieving process. She didn't feel like she could leave until her mom was settled and in a healthy place. Financially, they had to adjust. They sold the house Maggie had grown up in and moved to a smaller one across town. She finished high school, but one by one her friends left for college and Maggie stayed at home. In high school, Maggie hung out with friends and had a beer or smoked a little pot, or whatever kids do that we don't want them to do. As her friends went away to college and she grieved her father's death in her own way, she began hanging with a new crowd and experimenting with harder drugs. Maggie's mother was going through her grieving process, so she wasn't quite as present as she'd been in the past. She missed the signs that Maggie was slipping into addiction. If she had thought about it, she probably would have believed she knew and trusted her daughter. Experimenting with hard drugs wasn't a behavior she would suspect from the child she knew. While Maggie hung out with her friends, Maggie's mom went to grief counseling. By the time she noticed the changes in Maggie's behavior, the situation was severe. Maggie wasn't working. She wasn't doing anything. She stole money from her mom and friends. When her old high school friends came back to visit from college, they wondered what happened and who this new person was. It was very painful for those friends to see this young woman they loved so much go down such a difficult, terrible road. She lost a lot of friends who didn't want to hang out with somebody doing that to themselves. Maggie didn't get to go to college the next year. She lost her scholarship. Now her mom had to go through a new grieving process, losing the version of the little girl she thought she knew. Filling a void. People aren't born smokers or alcoholics, but they may be at risk for addiction. Maggie's birth mother was an addict. It's possible that Maggie inherited an increased likelihood of addictive behavior. Beyond that risk, however, Maggie was also trying to fill a void. Many times, people try to kill the pain of grief or loss with drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, or eating disorders. People who exhibit addictive behaviors are filling something in their life that they don't feel empowered about, that they feel they don't have control over. So they go down that road as an escape route. They can't deal with it, so they go drink or smoke pot. Sometimes it's only a couple of drinks or smoking a little for a brief period of time. Other times it's a slippery slope to higher level, hardcore drugs that can lead to an overdose. Whether it's lighter substances, even cigarettes, or hardcore drugs, When the substance controls you instead of you controlling your use, that's a sign of addiction. The things people are addicted to vary from one person to the next, whether it's a drug, a food, alcohol, or an activity that's bad for you. People have sexual addictions, addictions to gambling or shopping. Unbalanced behavior without moderation is another sign of addiction. Whatever form it takes, addiction can lead straight to rock bottom. I don't believe addicts choose to be addicts. They want to escape or numb a painful situation and use the substance or activity to do so. What begins as perhaps an entertaining, one-off experiment triggers the feel-better part of their brain, and when things are bad again, they go do the behavior again to feel better, and it becomes a vicious, uncontrollable cycle. When a chemical is involved, it's not easy to control. If it were, addicts would be able to say, well, I'm done. I'm not going to do that anymore. If you can't control your behavior, it's an addiction. Whether you see that in yourself or in a loved one, you need support and a community. So you don't have to go through that alone. It's going to take a lot of willpower and other resources to get through. You may want to help the loved one who has an addiction with all your heart, but you're going to have to do more than just talk about it. What to do if you recognize addiction in yourself? If you're reading this book and going through an addiction yourself, struggling to pull away and wanting to live the life you envisioned, but your addiction continues to pull you back down, know that for your children, for yourself, for the life that you desire, you're going to have to put down that addiction. If you don't, we have an activity at the end of this chapter that shows how your addiction affects every single aspect of your life. If your addiction is controlling you and you're not in control of your life, you need to consider seeking medical treatment for an addiction. If you recognize addictive behavior in yourself, maybe this just solidifies it, or maybe it brings it to light for you. You thought things were going fine, and then you realize, oh, that's why my family isn't speaking to me. Or, that's why I'm having such a tough time at work and always getting in trouble. I recently met a 32-year-old waiter who works 2 jobs but is still struggling to pay his rent because he goes out drinking most nights of the week. All his friends drink, his family drinks, and that's the only way he knows how to socialize. Anything he does outside of work involves alcohol, and it's starting to mess up his life. He's tired all the time. He doesn't feel well most days, and he wants to find one well-paying job instead of working 2 lower-paying ones. As we talked, he finally admitted, I think I have a problem with my drinking. If you've had a similar realization, you may be wondering what you should do or what you can do. You have to address the real cause of what led you down that road, honor your experience, and face it. Then deal with whatever you have to do to get rid of some of it. That may require medical intervention, medication to get off the drug, or going through a rehab program because now your body is physically addicted to the substance. You may need to find a new peer group who are focused on the positive things you want to accomplish, like work, school, or personal development. You need to change your environment so that you set yourself up for success, removing the people, situations, or items that trigger your addiction. Then, you need to replace your addiction with a new, healthy behavior. What can you replace this coping mechanism with? Some people get a high when they run, and that allows them to process the things that are happening in their life. Or if running isn't where you're at right now, maybe you want to try yoga to help you get calm and centered. There has to be something new that you pick up instead of picking up that drug or alcohol or credit card or food to binge on. If you used to be addicted to burgers and fries, maybe you can get addicted to going out dancing or doing yoga or riding your bike. You can replace an addiction to drinking or a drug with writing in your journal, blasting music, or painting when things are difficult. Maybe you're going to join an adult sports team. We don't have to stop playing just because we're adults. I have a client who used to be a competitive swimmer. That was her healthy release and way to cope. Then she had children and got stuck working long hours in a job she didn't like. She was doing everything for everyone else and nothing for herself. So to cheer herself, she would eat little treats. One day when her kids were in high school, she realized just how out of shape she was. Thinking back, she also realizes that she's been miserable for years. She's not happy, so she numbed her misery with food. She struggled with that realization. She was angry. She asked herself, what the hell happened to me? After dealing with her immediate reaction, she decided to take a plunge and make one change for herself. One of the neighbors let her use their pool in exchange for teaching their children how to swim. Soon she started teaching other children how to swim as well. Eventually, she started her own swimming school. Now she's in great shape and she still teaches swimming. Her kids are grown and she taught her grandkids how to swim. And she's happy. She needed a way to replace that addiction with something positive. Your healthy replacement doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to please another human being. It's just something that is your way of expressing yourself or having fun that isn't eating or doing something else to fill the void. Then it's a real happiness, not a drug-induced feeling from an activity that drags you down. It's a healthy habit that leads to taking back that control in your life, rather than letting your addiction determine where you end up. What to do if you recognize addiction in a loved one. As I said, addiction affects everyone and everything in your life. But what does it look like for the person on the other side of that addiction? You may experience a child, friend, or partner struggle with an addiction, but you can't just tell them, oh, just stop drinking. Get addicted to the beach. That's a great idea, but when it's not your own idea, it won't work. And then you'll have the added resentment of, who the hell are you to tell me what to do? Sometimes people say things they wouldn't say if they weren't in that addiction space. Their character and personality are almost lost. It's not them. They have something else that's ruling their common sense or right thinking. If they were in control, in their right mind, and not addicted to something, they would not want the addiction in their life, your life, or their children's lives. When somebody's ready to kick an addiction, they ask, what can I do? What are my options? They're ready to walk through that door instead of you having to push them. I know that you want to push them because you love them so much. You have the desire to push them, drag them, or do whatever you have to do, figuratively or literally, just to get them to that healthy place because you want the best for them. Sometimes that means stepping out of the picture.
All right, so that was a portion of a chapter from my new best-selling book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation. Breaking free from addictions is the chapter. So I also have a special gift for you. Protect yourself and your loved ones from the controlling, manipulative difficulties of addiction. Learn how to defend against backsliding and help to reboot your addiction from one that controls you or a loved one to a healthy habit that blesses all. Get your 2-week email-based addiction defense course at www.sheilamac.com/defense. Now, this is a free course for you. It's a mini course, and then if you would like to join a small support group, that is also available at sheilamac.com. And I hope this helps. All right, I'm sending you happiness and wellness blessings at its finest, and I'm giving you some homework.
grab a copy of my latest book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation. That's right. If life has knocked you down, get ready to pick yourself back up and give